Hey guys, welcome into Sports Around the Bar, the only show by drinkers for drinkers. I'm your host Jake and I'm joined by Drew. You already know him, you already love him. And today we just want to welcome you guys in. It's going to be a great show. We got a lot going on today. We're talking about Zeke Elliott versus the Cowboys. We're talking about Antonio Brown and those nasty, nasty feet. And how big of a deal that is for the Oakland Raiders and everyone going forward here. We're also going to go over the Dallas Cowboys 2019 season. I know a lot of Cowboys fans out there have been waiting for this moment. Today, it's all about the Cowboys, man. A little bit of Raiders, but it's all about the Cowboys.
Does it have to be?
I think so. Contractually, yeah.
Is it that time?
I know every Cowboys fan.
Hold on, there's a contract?
Yeah, I signed it in blood, sorry.
Did you forge my blood?
Forge it? No, I just stole it while you slept.
Oh.
All right, anyway. So today, we have a lot going on. We're going to get to all of that and more here. But first, why don't we start with Zeke Elliott here, Drew, because this is a really, really tough team for us to grade. And we did wait. We did kind of keep it close to the beginning of the season, which I think really helps out. We get more of a clear picture on what they're actually going to look like. But when you've got a guy like Zeke Elliott, that much talent hanging out in the open where you don't know that he's going to play, he's not working out with the team in training camp, he's not getting ready, man, this is going to be one of those kind of decisions that these next couple weeks could hugely affect the Cowboys' season going forward, man. We're going to assume, when we talk about them later on, we're going to assume that Dez Bryant, what's his name? Zeke Elliott is going to play.
Well, I'm assuming
Did I miss any Cowboys there?
All three of them are going to play.
We're assuming Jason Garrett's going to be there from week one. But this absolutely has a huge impact on the Cowboys season, even if he comes back before training camp, but he misses most of it. That can slow a guy down for 3 or 4 weeks till he gets into the swing of things. I think this is huge. They need to get this contract wrapped up, and I want to talk about that first here. Because we're at DEFCON 1 now, right? The season's 4 weeks away, and there's still Zeke's holding out, saying he's not going to play with a new contract. Yeah. The Cowboys have said, we feel like we've given you value. We have a contract on the table that we feel is fair. And obviously Zeke doesn't seem it that way because they haven't inked the deal yet. How, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, again, nightmare scenario, 1 being this isn't a big deal, where are the Cowboys at with this?
Oh, I think it dramatically changes the outcome of their 2019 schedule. Will, thank you for joining us, man. And the Cowboys do have fans. I know. It surprised me, too.
How have you not run into them yet? They're everywhere.
And Zeke did say that he will set out, like you said, if he doesn't get a new contract. And always good to see you, man. He said Le'Veon Bell version 2.0.
Absolutely. This is starting to look like it. And I think the reason because we had Le'Veon Bell last year, guys like Zeke Elliott and Melvin Gordon are feeling much more emboldened with these contract talks saying, hey, I've already seen it work. And we saw Le'Veon go on and go get a huge contract anyway. So it can work for me too.
Cody, what's going on, man? Thank you for the share. If you guys have shared this video and I did not see it, I appreciate it immensely. We both appreciate it immensely. Shares mean the world to us, especially against Facebook algorithm.
Right, absolutely. Now, Cody wanted to know who's their backup, and let me tell you, they don't have a high-profile backup anymore. Alfred Morris on his way out. I know Cowboys fans are saying, oh, we didn't need him. He didn't look that good when he was with his limited opportunities and everything. But I think missing a name like that and a guy who has got it done in the NFL before is a big issue when you're talking about your star running back maybe not being there week 1, week 2, week 3, or God forbid for the Cowboys, week 17. So I think Alfred Morris' departure is big. They also believed in Rod Smith, even though he had like a couple good runs and stuff like that, but I never really saw like a solid game where I was like, man, watch out for Rod Smith. I never really saw that complete game from Rod Smith. I said he's a legitimate backup, but he's gone too. So that is an issue for them. They don't have a high-profile backup right now. They are 100% all in on Zeke Elliott playing this year.
Ron says Cowgirls, and he says Saints, and Preston says Go Pats. Guys, I want to be completely moving on. I want to be completely honest about how Zeke Elliott is so important to this Cowboys team. I know a lot of Cowboys fans have high hopes for Dak and what he can mean to that organization. And Jerry Jones is saying he'll make him the highest paid quarterback if he has to, and so on and so on. All the success the Cowboys are happening beyond their defense, it starts with number 21.
Exactly.
And if that guy does not touch the field, I am literally telling you right now, you're gonna look at a 5 to 6 differential swing from the W's to the L's.
Exactly. And almost all the time, I'm the guy that says pay the quarterback first, right? Worry about the running backs. They're a dime a dozen. But I think this is like the 1 or 2% of the time where this is the outlier. And that's you can ignore the rule. I think when you look at the way the Cowboys are built, the talent that Zeke Elliott has, the fact that he's as young as he is, the fact that they spent a first-round pick on him on top of it, they have all their eggs in the basket of Zeke Elliott right now, and when you've watched Dak Prescott play, you can't tell me if you take his weapons away, he's going to succeed, because we've seen for years that's not the case. We've seen for years he needs to have an elite receiver in Amari Cooper. He needs to have a role player like Cole Beasley to come in there that can be a number 2 guy. And he needs a solid running game if these Cowboys are going to win, regardless of how good the defense is. I mean, look at last year. Last year, for the first 8 games before they made that trade for Amari Cooper, they were almost dead in the water. I mean, they were a competitive team in the fact that the defense was keeping them in games, but nobody was like, watch out for the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. They trade for Amari Cooper and go get that final piece of the puzzle on offense. All of a sudden now we're talking about this being a team that legitimately has a shot at making the playoffs, or at the very least a deep run into those playoffs.
Lewis, I'm glad you could join us, man. He says if he sits, they're going to go third or last in the division. They win when they run and throw to Zeke.
I absolutely agree with him, man. You're 100% right. I think when you look at it, this is the nightmare scenario for him, and I get why they don't want to come out and give him like huge numbers, because you're gonna have to pay Amari Cooper here, you're gonna have to pay Dak Prescott on top of it. But if it's me, and I got to pick one of the 3 to leave, I'm keeping Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott, and I'm going to roll the dice on either bringing in a veteran like Joe Flacco when the Broncos inevitably don't want him. We've seen Joe Flacco win with a team like this. In fact, we've seen him win with less in Baltimore. We've seen him win with that elite defense. The Cowboys almost have an elite defense. You're a couple pieces away from that defense being elite. Go pick up a guy like Flacco. Maybe it's Ryan Tannehill if the Titans get rid of him. Go get that veteran, and then roll the dice on a rookie the year after, and just play the best guy. Put the best team on the field you possibly can, and go with the cheap option at QB.
You know that's not going to happen, right?
It's not going to happen, but I'm telling you, this is me, and I'm Jerry Jones. That's the way I'm thinking about it.
You're a better looking Jerry Jones.
Yeah, wait, see me at 75 like he's at. Be like Tales of the Crypt in here.
But
all right.
You do seem a little bit lighter. You don't have $1 billion on you?
No, I don't quite have his financial success.
Oh, okay.
All his charms and good look, though. I got that on lock.
Hey guys, while you're watching the show, I just want to remind you about the video that we posted earlier today, where we are doing a donation to St. Jude's, and that's how we're going to pick our fantasy team, guys. Hey, if you don't want to donate, please share the video, and if you do want to donate and not take part of the fantasy league, that's perfectly fine too. And if you want to donate and be part of the league, remember we are taking the top 11 highest donators, and remember to message us and let us know how much you donate, because Facebook lies.
Yep.
And that is the way you're going to do it. I just want to go out there and remind you guys, this is a great cause for the world and children in all of our communities, and it's a great opportunity for us to help.
Take Zeke first overall. Help us out. Anyway, going forward here, I want to go into Bobby's comment. He says Zeke is 1 game away from being suspended for an entire year anyway. Maybe Jerry Jones looks at him as the bad investment, especially with his holdout now. I understand the off-the-field issues with it, but Des Bryant had those off-the-field issues as well. He still managed to make up for it with talent at a time. When the talent isn't there, that's when you boot the attitude problem. The difference is Zeke Elliott's in his prime right now, or advancing into it. He hasn't even reached his prime, more than likely, with him only being 25 or 26 years old. We're going to see another 3 or 4 good years at least out of Zeke. Yeah, he was like 21 when he came out. He was a younger guy. So this is year, 4 for him?
Yeah, I was surprised.
He's a younger guy, still has a lot of tread left on the tires. I think when you look at Zeke Elliott, this is where you got to start building this team, because you already have the offensive line. Why make the mistake of giving Dak Prescott $32 million or $35 million like it seems likely they're going to do? Why go out and bet on a guy that you've already seen has not been able to get it done by himself? He's not the guy who gets you a win. He's the guy you win in spite of. Why go and make that mistake when you have other role players? Go get a value quarterback, plug him in there with the best weapons money can buy, and all of a sudden you've got a team that can compete. We've seen quarterbacks like Joe Flacco and Peyton Manning when he was having his neck problems, Cam Newton at the time. We've seen guys that maybe haven't been the best quarterback in the league show up with a great team and make it to the Super Bowl at the very least, win it sometimes as well. It can be done. You just have to invest to it. You have to go all in on that kind of strategy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sorry, I got thrown off here. Lewis says Amari isn't enough. Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I mean, that's the reason why they went out and spent like $5 million on Randall Cobb. It's probably why Jason Witten got talked out of retirement. Letting Cole Beasley go is a loss on that offense, because you do need a second weapon to throw to. Tight end last year just seemed to be nowhere to be found. So the addition of Witten does help out, but as we're all getting, as I see all the comments and stuff like that saying, no Zeke, no Dak. Dak is overrated. I mean, if Zeke doesn't go, this is a prove-it year for Dak Prescott. No,
it's
doubt
already
about
a
it.
prove-it year, right? Well,
Well,
I know it's not
is.
in their mind,
Right.
But it should be. I mean, yeah, he had 8 good games towards the back half of last year. Before that, he had a good rookie season with a stacked team and one of the best offensive lines, maybe in NFL history. So you want to tell me that he doesn't have something to prove? I would think he 100% has something to prove. He has everything to prove. I know you're not, but I'm saying he still has, in my book, everything to prove that he's worth anywhere near top-level quarterback money, because if you give a guy who's not a top-tier quarterback top-tier money, your franchise is going to sink, because you're not going to have the money for all these great defensive players. You're not going to have the money for the Amari Coopers and and Zeke Elliott's of the world. You're going to have a team full of Jason Wittens and Randall Cobbs coming out there that you have to gamble on and say, oh, maybe this guy can make it work. Green Bay has gone through this for years, where they're paying their quarterback top money, and the rest of the team suffers for it. And Green Bay, we've seen them take that step back. The difference is, at the very least, they had the quarterback.
Right.
If you're going to win, you at least have to have one of those two things. You either need to have a quarterback that can just outplay everybody, or you need to have a team that's just better than everybody else. Right now, Dallas has the team. That doesn't stick around if you pay Dak top dollar.
I want to get to some more of these comments. There's a few about Jerry Jones. Sharif says Jerry Jones needs to step aside and let his sons run the team. And Brian says Jerry doesn't care about off-the-field issue. He pays guys to babysit them. And then Sharif goes off and says Jerry Jones constantly shoots himself in the foot every time. I do want to get to one comment. Even though Jerry Jones is the final decision maker, and Sharif, I know you know this, but his sons are part of everything that goes on. His oldest son, Steven, is the players, and I'm blanking out. He takes care of all the players' contracts, all the players' negotiations.
What are we talking about? I was reading
Well,
comments.
the general manager is Jerry Jones, but his son is the players, and I'm blanking out on what the word is. And
Liaison? I don't know.
No, he deals with all the contracts. I know it sounds like a general manager, but that is not his title. But
President of Football Operations? You got me at a
there
loss.
you go.
Man.
That sounds like a good one for
yeah.
me. I mean, this guy is involved in it immensely. So as much as, Jerry's still there making the final decision, his sons are definitely part of this and all the decision making.
Plus, with that guy's ego, the only way he's not in there trying to make decisions for the team that he's had for so long is when they carry him feet first out of the building. I think Jerry Jones, you just got to live with it. This is his team. I mean, there's not going to be a point that he's not going to be involved with it. He's going to be the Bud Adams of this generation, that we're going to see him be 90 years old sitting up in the booth, still calling all the shots, because that's just how he runs things. And obviously he's had success in his life doing it. Maybe you could argue the Cowboys would be more or less successful with or without him, but it's not going to change. It's not going to get any better. He's not going to one day say, man, you know what? I think we would win more games if I wasn't making these decisions. That's not the way he's programmed. He's a billionaire, like a self-made billionaire. The guy is going to go into this saying, I know what's right, and I just got to prove it to everybody.
Scott says running backs are easier to find than good quarterbacks.
And you are right. You are right. But the team is ready to win right now. If you boot the running back, you can close your own playoff window for you. Just pay him. Just be done with it. Front load the guarantees. Have it where you can get out of it if the team falls apart, and then you can go find that next running back. I think if you go and bet on a quarterback and you bet on the wrong guy, you're going to marry yourself with more guaranteed money, a lot worse of the contractual hits to your cap space. I think when you look at the way the Cowboys are set up right now, you can win with anybody at quarterback. You could take Andy Dalton, put him in there for Dak Prescott, and you could still be winning games and still be just as dangerous. That's who you need to go find. And there's going to be guys like that out there this year, because we're getting to the point now where there's almost more quarterbacks than there are places for them to start. You're going to have your pick of the litter as long as you're willing to pay that guy $15 to $20 million instead of the $35 it's probably going to take for Dak to get re-upped.
The other thing I got to say about that, Scott, is you can find another running back. You can find a good running back a lot easier than you can find a good quarterback, but you can't find another Zeke Elliott. You can't find another Todd Gurley. If it is, then every team would have one, and their value would definitely drop. But these, the Le'Veon Bells and the Saquon Barkleys of the world are a step above a good running back. And this offense is totally built around Zeke Elliott running the ball. Even though they've had a little bit of success with Dak, let's not forget the success that came from it is from Zeke running that ball. You pull him away, and you put from an elite running back to a good running back, there is a significant drop-off. As everyone knows, I'm a Chiefs fan. Losing Kareem Hunt, which I put him close to the top tier of those running backs when he's in Kansas City, and you put in Damian Williams, even though Damian Williams might be a good running back, he wasn't what Kareem Hunt was, and I think that's a
They
dramatic
beat the
drop-off.
Patriots with Kareem Hunt, and that's my point. You can get by with some of the mid-range teams if Zeke leaves. You're going to beat some of the teams like, well, I don't want to jump the gun here, but we're going to talk about teams like Buffalo and the Jets that come up on this schedule. You're going to be able to match up with those teams. But you're not going to be able to go and match up with the Patriots if you lose someone like Zeke Elliott, especially when you talk about losing Rod Smith and Alfred Morris, the heir apparents behind him as well in the same season. This is a bad spot for them to be in. I'm 100% with Cody here. He says they're in a hard spot because there's a little trade value right now that free agency is over in the situation in San Diego. I agree. There's options out there. There's 2 high-level running backs that are probably going to wind up. At the very least, those options are going to be talked about. Even if GMs say, I never considered it, I guarantee you the conversation's going on. You at least want to know, what could I get out of him if we just can't bridge the gap here?
We see Nestor's comment, man. I'm glad you could join us, Nestor. I bet you've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
I do want to get a couple more Jerry Jones comments. Bobby says Jerry Jones is a Vince McMahon of the NFL. He will die in that chair. And then Ian goes off and says, I hope Jerry Jones's sons run the Cowboys better than Al Davis's son was running the Raiders.
I would settle for them not cutting their own hair. You're a billionaire. Go pay somebody to do it. Pay anybody you want. Go have your own barber that follows you around and you decide I want to have a haircut and they're ready for you. I'm 100% with you. I want to see Jerry Jones' son succeed too. I think the Cowboys, when they're a good team, it's more fun because they're one of those teams that everybody likes to come out and talk about. If you want to stay good, you could find a way to pay Dak Prescott like $20 million a year for me. Like that's like my threshold. If you pay him much more than $20 million, you're getting swindled because we talk about this all the time. When it comes to power rankings and quarterback, he's somewhere around 20 or something like that in the league. There's going to be 18, 19, 20, maybe even more with some of these young guns coming up in places like Buffalo, the Jets, Chicago with Mitch Trubisky. There's some of these guys that are going to be overtaking him as well.
Sean, I'm glad you could join us, man. We're doing great. Scott says, is Zeke worth it really, though? Suspensions, sitting out now, is he worth the value that he's asking for?
You got to do it. It's what he gives you on the field. Yeah, I get it. There's always the risk of suspensions, but those come at the beginning of the season, not at the end. And when you play the playoffs, all you need is him there. I would almost argue if you get a second running back, like Cleveland has in Kareem Hunt, you might be better off with that guy getting an 8-game suspension because he's going to get 4 or 5 games to warm up in the season, and then you're going to go into the playoffs with a much fresher, top-tier running back, especially if you got a guy like Nick Chubb who's competent behind him and can get you through those 8 games. I almost think it's a positive instead of a negative because you're going to get a fresher running back instead of, look at the Rams last year when they got there with Todd Gurley. And yeah, they overdid it with the carries. But when you go and get a fresher guy like that, that's how you can have those impactful games where he can win basically a playoff game for you because he's fresh and because he's able to make things happen that he might not be able to do if he's got 300 or 400 touches by that point.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Cody says, run structure changes also with the O-line and a new running back. Timing, schemes, powers versus zone. He's 100% right. You put in someone, just for an example, like Le'Veon Bell, who likes to hesitate in the back. Your offensive line is asked to hold the block a little bit longer than someone like, I'm just trying to think, Saquon Barkley, who seems to power his way through the offensive line. That's just the first guy popped to my head. There's definitely a significant change. Todd Gurley is also one of those backs that seem to just cut straight to the first hole versus Le'Veon Bell sits and waits. All these guys run a little bit different. Sharice says, also need to mention that Jason Garrett is a lame duck coach. Man, it's the nostalgia. He was the backup quarterback in the 90s when Jerry Jones first bought the franchise. They won all those Super Bowls. Jason Garrett is going to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys as long as they're winning and as long as Jerry Jones wants him to be there.
And there's no pushback. He's a yes man. That's what it is. I'm sure Jerry Jones says, you know what? I think we'll sign Randall Cobb and it'll solve all our problems. And you know what he said?
Is that what he sounds like?
I think. Sorry, was that a bad impression? I wasn't even trying to make an impression.
I just like the accent. It's kind of funny. It threw me off.
Jerry Jones says, we're going to sign Randall Cobb. Accent still there? No?
No.
He says we're going to sign Randall Cobb, and Jason Garrett says, yeah, okay, sure. That'll work. That'll be great.
We're going to let go of Cole Beasley, and we're going to bring in Randall Cobb.
Perfect. Well, to be fair, I'll take Randall Cobb at $5 million, then Cole Beasley in that 4-year, like $30-some million contract he signed in Buffalo. Too much money for Cole Beasley. But I'm with you 100%. It doesn't matter what it is. Jerry Jones wants to be in charge. He wants to call all the shots. Of course, he's going to have a coach that's not going to push back against him. Everyone's like, they need to get rid of Jason Garrett, and that'll solve all their problems. The only way they get rid of Jason Garrett is if he grows a backbone and says, no, Jerry, I don't think Randall Cobb solves all the problems in this offense. And that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Bobby says, what is everyone drinking on? We're drinking on Yingling. It is Jake's choice this evening. He wants Yingling, so that's what we're drinking on.
Oh, they're my go-to, man. I love Yingling because it's cheap, it's good, it's a little bit heavier than everything. And here is a free ad for Yingling. You guys are welcome. Now,
pay us.
Show us the money, right? Going into the comments. Also, Bobby, I didn't mean to jump it. I said something right as I read his comment saying that Dak is like a 15 to 20 guy. I might even say he's 20 to 25. That's what it is. Going to Nestor's thing. He wants to know what he thinks guys like Dak, Zeke, and Amari Cooper are going to do in the preseason. Man, they're going to light it up. But you don't need to see them as much in the preseason. If they're there, this team's good. We saw that last year in the back half. As long as they're there, man, they're going to be fine. The question is going to be, what's it going to take to get all these guys there? We haven't heard the rumblings out of Amari Cooper yet, but we've heard Dak Prescott say, I'm worth every penny. We've heard Zeke say, I need to get paid before I'm even going to consider playing this year. They have a lot of questions to go in Dallas. They're in a bad spot when it comes to money here.
Dude, Ian, you crack me up, dude. He goes, he hopes Zeke doesn't go to Florida and make a rap album.
That's what I would do.
And Ken, you're right, we're not Texans, but we were pretty darn close in our accents.
Yeah, you like that?
You got to get us close to that.
All right, going forward here, a couple more.
I got one. Sharif said Zeke is about to make $6 million this year, and then almost 10 his final year. What's the problem?
The problem is these guys don't negotiate the money. And when you're a running back, you have an agent whispering in your ear, man, you're worth $15, $20 million right now. You're one of the best NFL running backs. You deserve to be paid like it. I think this would all change if the NFL made it where rookies could actually negotiate some of these contracts going into the NFL. Instead, you get that lot where it doesn't matter. Like, this is where you were drafted. This is how much money you get. This is your position. It's all pretty much set in stone. The only thing they argue about is offset language, which, again, doesn't have anything to do with the money. It only has to do if you just totally flame out and the team cuts you before that contract's up. If they made it where these guys could actually negotiate a little bit, I think we'd see fewer holdouts. But right now, they probably feel like they're handcuffed a little bit because I only have so many years as a running back to make money. You can't tell me that I'm worth $6 million when I'm, a top 5 running back in the NFL? Top 3?
Yeah. And that's in that position, like Le'Veon last year and now Zeke this year and also Melvin Gordon, they're all looking at Todd Gurley's contract. They're going, that's what we want. And not only is it what they want, it's what their agents are whispering in their ear. They're like, look at these stats. You're almost right there, or you are there, or you're doing better than he is, and he's making more than you. I mean, let's not forget, and I said this many times, all these NFL players are type A personalities. They all think they're the best of what they do, and that's what you want in a football
Zeke
player.
might be right.
Yeah. But this guy legitimately might be more valuable to the Cowboys organization than Todd Gurley is to the Rams organization.
One more point before we talk about Antonio Brown and those gnarly feet he's got. They have all the leverage at this point. The running back has all the leverage because he's 25. He probably has another 3 or 4 years worth of elite production out of him before he starts to fall off. He knows he's going to take a beating. You want to get paid for that. You also know that the team needs you right now. If he was on the Buffalo Bills and they weren't going anywhere, if he was on Tampa Bay and you know they're not going anywhere, then maybe you don't have quite so much leverage. But this is a team that thinks they can win a Super Bowl. So why not go after the money now when you have the power and the ball is in your court? Why not challenge them and say, hey, if we want this ride to keep going, you got to make sure I get paid.
Yeah. Austin says, on Texas teams, Zeke or Gordon to Houston would be amazing for the Texans. Why is Miller still the starter there? I don't know.
Because the Texans are a conservative organization.
And the lack of talent there.
That do not want to trade a ton of draft picks away. I know they did it for Deshaun Watson to go get him, but that's a quarterback. I also think, again, there are a lot of GMs that think like me. And I think the normal kind of process for a lot of these high-end GMs is running backs are not special. It doesn't matter who's running the ball. I can get 80% of the production for 10% of the price if I go and take a 4th-round pick and I put a good offensive line in front of them. So that's why I think teams like the Texans, who, again, think they're a playoff team, don't want to mortgage their future by trading all their picks away to go get one of these running backs. Because the minute you mortgage the future, that's where you can have one of those situations where you say, man, if we had a left tackle right now, if we had another wide receiver, we could be a Super Bowl team, and then you threw that pick away.
Man, Scott and Ian are about to get us on a completely different subject here, but it's too good not to talk about. Scott says they should take out the guaranteed money and just make the contract for a set amount. Ian said,
Wouldn't that make it entirely guaranteed?
well...
Is that what you're saying?
He's talking about making it entirely guaranteed instead of just the guaranteed versus what it is.
Oh, he's saying they should just,
at least that's how I read it. Ian says, would the NFL be better with guaranteed contracts?
No.
And pays the players in building instead of the position?
Well, yes, but then again, a safety's not as valuable as a quarterback, which is why we see guys get paid to play quarterback, and we don't see safeties, unless you're Landon Collins or Kevin Byard, get paid that much money to do it. It's all about the value to the team, and that's the way things are set up. As for the guaranteed money question, I think that's where Scott was going with that too, saying that they should just guarantee them the money out of it instead of saying you have this incentive. Teams want these guys to play hard through their entire contract, because how easy would it be for you to say, I'm a running back, I'm making $8 million this year no matter what happens. I don't need that extra half yard to get the first down. I'll just go down. I got 4 yards. Why do I need to make it 5? Why struggle to be great if my money's guaranteed? I have no incentive. I think the incentive keeps the guys playing hard.
It's never going to happen. And the reason it's never going to happen is because it's a sport that we play or they play and that we love to watch and we've played in the past is injuries happen. And especially when stars are being used and a lot of these stars are being overused in their careers, the injuries going to happen because of that. So owners will never agree to guaranteed contracts in the NFL purely based on the fact that when they have a superstar or they have someone that's valuable in their position, they're out there consistently, and a majority of these guys do get hurt. And now when they're getting guaranteed money and they're not per game like the year is set out in their contracts, if they're a little banged up, guess what they're going to do? They're going to sit that game out because they already got their money. Not that they're not going to play again, but you might see these guys that are just hurt not play instead of the guys that are, injured that don't play.
And the difference between baseball, basketball that guarantee their money, and football is you never have to worry about the cliff, or you don't have to worry about the cliff as much in those other sports. I mean, baseball, you can have a 35-year-old pitcher who's still going strong. You can have Zach Greinke out there who's still going strong. You can justify the amount of money he's being paid. Football, you can be good at 27 and fall off at 28 for no apparent reason. It's just the amount of physical pounding in the game. Guys need to be a little more expendable. The owners and the GMs need to be able to turn and burn some of these guys. You can't do it if you guarantee the contracts. That's why the NFL, to their credit, has been very, very clever by not guaranteeing money to athletes, instead saying, if you want to make the big bucks, you have to perform on the field to be worthy of it. And I think there's nothing, it's commission. It's commission versus regular salary. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just one of those things that because football is so grueling of a physical sport, you have to do it that way.
Bo, I'm glad you could join us, man. Scott says instead of a $10 million with 60 guaranteed, make it 60 with bonuses, like $10 million bonus for staying the whole contract without sitting out.
You can write the contract however you want. That's part of it within the guidelines of the NFLPA, which I'm sure are incredibly difficult and incredibly convoluted. But you can write those contracts however you want. You can put any kind of bonus in that you want to. I'm sure a lot of guys have that. And we see stuff like roster bonuses. Like, hey, you show up, you manage to stay on the team, I'll pay you more money.
Yeah.
All you got to do is make it to training camp and make it where I don't want to cut you before that.
And pass a physical. Yep.
Exactly. So there are those kind of incentives that all you have to do is be there, all you have to do this. But the NFL wants to keep their players hungry, especially because it's as grueling of a physical sport, because there were a lot of times Todd Gurley probably last year could have said, I'll just settle down and take a 4-yard carry instead of trying to power through 2 or 3 players or try to make something happen and take a worse hit and get 18 yards instead of it. The NFL wants to keep these guys hungry because that's how you win games. That's how they have their contract set up. And I actually think that's the best way to do it. Basketball and baseball are different sports, but what do you do if you're Bryce Harper and the Phillies? They just gave him a 13-year contract and it's guaranteed. He could never hit another baseball, and you're going to have to pay this man $300 million. That's not the way to win games. That's not the way to kind of inspire him. I think there should be incentives in contracts where you say, I'll pay you this much because I like you and because you're willing to commit to my team. I'll give you this much as a commitment, but if you want to be good, you got to hit 300 or you got to hit 280 and you got to give me 105 RBIs this year or you got to give me 35 home runs or more. I think that's the best way to keep athletes motivated and to keep the best product on the field is to not guarantee the money.
Scott goes off and says the NFL Players Association needs to step up. And Cody says football players never play for this contract, but always play for the next one.
For the most part, yeah. Cody's 100% right. Usually when the guy hits 28 or 29, though, you're getting the last big deal for the most part, unless you get like a 1-year deal. Then maybe they're tricking themselves into saying I can get paid. But you're right. For the most part, they're playing for the next contract. I think when you look at things, and you're right, we did get off track. But when you look at things, I think having incentive-based performance will motivate guys better than saying, hey, you're getting paid regardless. You get to go be Bryce Harper. We're not going into the politics of it, but this is like universal basic income's argument. Like, hey, why don't we just give people $1,000 a month regardless of what you do because it'll make things easier? Will it do that, or will it make you lazy?
Yeah. I want to get to Scott's thing where he's saying that
I noticed you dodged that political question. You're just like, I'm not touching that.
Player Association needs to step up, man. I think that's why they're already meeting. I think that they're seeing the writing on the wall. I think they're a little bit worried that this contract might go out and fizzle before the players decide to vote and agree upon this stuff, and you might see a strike. I think that's why you're seeing contracts now. Does it need a change in leadership in their association? Maybe. Maybe that's probably what it is. I mean, these are kind of the same guys that have been around for a while now, ever since they, fizzled out a little bit in their last contract, but still seem to get it through. I can't remember the guy's name that's the president, but that's okay. We'll move forward. As far as what Ian's saying, he says keeping them hungry at times can also lead to injuries.
This is the great philosophical debate.
But, okay, and before you
Go
say
ahead.
it, this is a debate that we've had many, many times. You are not great unless you're healthy on the field. I don't care how much talent you have. If you cannot find yourself healthy on the field, you are no longer great to me.
But also, on the reverse, I think that might keep them great as well because they're willing to go up and make those hard tackles. How often can a safety say, man, that Derrick Henry's running at me. This guy's as big as a linebacker. I could just stumble a little bit and let him get past me. If my money's guaranteed and I'm playing for my next guaranteed contract, maybe I don't want to take that hit. I think this might also give them that incentive, like, hey, I make this stop, I get an extra tackle, it moves me that much closer to my bonus. It gives them a little more motivation. I think philosophically, people are motivated by money, and I think when you look at the way the NFL is set up, they are kind of dangling the carrot in front of these guys, saying, if you play hard and you put your neck on the line, you can make big money. Go into what Scott said real quick here. He says, I lost the comment, but he said that, here we go. Guys are always signing for the big number, but then get mad when they can't actually bring that big number home. That's what the incentive's there for. You need to go into those contracts saying, these are reasonable expectations for me, or this is reasonable for the number, this is what I'm reasonably going to be able to get, because there are those, moonshot kind of clauses in there that says, if you throw 100 touchdowns, we'll give you a bonus. You're never throwing 100 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes, threw 50 last year? 52? Whatever it was. There are those clauses you'll never reach in there, but you need to understand that as a player that a lot of that's unreasonable, that it's not going to happen. And I get it, these guys may not go into that, but that's why you got to have an intelligent agent to explain that to you. Like, yeah, they gave you $80 million on paper, but you're going to hit 40 guaranteed, and you're going to get about another 25 worth of incentive that you're actually going to reach.
And that's why you see the players really trying to get that guaranteed money right off the bat, because they know to keep those stats and those numbers up can cause injuries, like Ian said, and sometimes are unreachable, like Jake was just mentioning.
Right. And sometimes it's just for the ego thing, right?
Yeah.
They can put $20 million worth of unreachable money in there, but you've now got the biggest quote-unquote contract a safety's ever signed because it inflates that number. Part of it is for the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean, man, he wants to talk Manny Machado. I love you, Sean. I love all the comments, man, but we got to stay a little bit on track because I still want to talk about Antonio Brown and him being an idiot, and then we got to talk about the Cowboys even more when we actually talk about this.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk about Brown.
Let's talk about Brown.
Let's do it.
If you haven't heard, obviously that picture's out there on social media. Maybe it may not be out there anymore.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, but he put a picture out there of just some gnarly feet that he apparently got into a cryo chamber for, which is a recovery device that a lot of athletes believe in. I know there's kind of scientifically, I don't want to call it placebo, but there's not concrete evidence of it actually helping you extend your career. I know guys like LeBron believe in it big time, and we've seen LeBron have some success. But I've also heard a lot of scientists say it's phooey.
It's the now up-to-date ice bath.
Right. It's even worse. Basically, you're getting in this big metal chamber that's going to flash freeze you at sub-zero temperatures. You're going to get in that, hang out there for 20 minutes, and then get out.
And
first of all, anaphylactic shock is a real thing. I don't think this is a good idea regardless.
Let's talk about what happened to him. So obviously he uses this chamber. That's what he believes that will help his career go longer. And let's be honest, this guy stayed healthy for a long time now. He's
30 now.
He's been productive in his later years, and looks like he will stay productive. But what he did is he did not wear the proper footwear going into this chamber. Almost Christmas storied himself. Instead of licking a pole, he put his bare feet on a metal floor.
We were talking about this before the show, man. Usually get into those things naked. We hope it's just his feet, because that would be the nightmare scenario. I saw how rough those feet looked. I mean, we're talking about frostbite on his feet and him suffering frostbite damage from getting in there. I hope it's just the feet. I really do. I honestly, again, you get into these things naked or very near to naked. So I think when you talk about Antonio Brown, if it's just his feet and he just has to sit out, like you didn't touch it in any other part of your body, I'll let you guys kind of guess what I'm talking about. I think that's a win. That's got to be a win. I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine what that would be like.
Oh,
He'd be walking around like Mr. Deeds, like swinging that leg around. Don't worry, it's my gross foot.
It's my gross foot. Don't worry about it.
Man. And Ian says instead of Mr. Big Chest, he's now Mr. Nasty Feet. As bad as his attitude is with the Steelers. It's funny, but then again, if I'm the Raiders, I'm pretty pissed about this.
Yeah, because it is a injury based on poor decision making. Again, another knock on Antonio Brown and his decision making on and off the field. I mean, this guy, it seems like these guys that have made a career of bad decisions and are trying to get away from it seem to never make it completely away.
No, 100%. And on top of that, I mean, we're talking about Antonio Brown, who the Raiders just had to trade for. They had to give up capital to go out and get this guy. And then he goes and frostbites his own feet, and he shows up in a hot air balloon and apparently hurts himself getting out of that too. I'm wondering if I'm the Oakland Raiders, what did I just buy? Like I bought a 30-plus-year-old receiver who now can't stay healthy.
Here's Steven, our local Raiders fan. He goes, AB is an idiot, but the guy does nothing but catch balls, score touchdowns, and win games. I'll take that any day. Of course, as a Raiders fan, we'll say that. His feet are just peeling, and he'll be fine.
Oh, I hope so, man.
I hope so.
That's
just a layer of skin, not even blisters. Media is doing what the media does and making it sound like it is something.
Dude, okay. They do that.
Hold on, I'll give you that. But you don't limp and take 2 days off because you have skin peeling from the bottom of your feet.
Well,
no.
It was. Hold on,
do not.
Hold on, Drew. I looked at this nastiness. You were the guy who says I can't look at it.
Well, I don't need to look at it.
I know, because you're the Mr. I don't want to see a skin disorder
I
guy.
read it, and that was enough for me to know. My image, put it in there in my own head. I don't need to look at it.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I agree that is an issue. When you're talking about the peeling as bad as it is, yes, you have calluses in the bottom of your foot that make it easier for you to walk and make it less impactful. Like, you don't feel anything in your feet, right? Because you got that built-up skin in there, and probably some of that's coming off. You're going to be ginger for a while, is my point here, Steven. And yes, the media does like to blow things out of proportion.
No doubt.
But when this is a preventable thing, kind of like Andrew Luck hurting himself snowboarding, it's hard when you trade for a guy as a GM to not sit there and rip your hair out like, I just did everything right, and still we're coming up with these issues that might hold us back.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. He's not going to miss any games. And if worst case scenario, he lost a toe, they can make prosthetic toes, and it feels kind of the exact same in your shoe where you're not going to feel any difference. I mean, this stuff happens to other people, but that's when they're like stuck in a snowstorm. That's like when they're stuck in
and usually you're not going out there getting chased by 300-pound guys after the fact.
But, I mean, realistically, he'll be fine. And I get the media's overdoing it, but the question is, this guy is making poor decisions before he even touches the field. I mean, that's been kind of a knock about Antonio Brown to begin with. Is this guy can't make the right decision? It seems like the guy has never been really suspended. He plays really well, but he can't get along with his teammates. Reason why the Steelers let him go.
He's throwing Gatorade things on the field and everything. I get it.
My point is just like, I get the Raiders are okay with this, and I get as a fan that you're okay with this because you literally got one of the best receivers, if not arguably the best receiver in the league right now. I would be ecstatic for him to be a Chief. But when I see this, it just makes me go, what else are you going to decide to do that might take you off the field?
And even more than that, now this is the time where you want to see him building chemistry with Derek Carr, who he's never worked with before.
Right.
You know, if he was still a Steeler and we saw this happen, we'd be like, dude, him and Big Ben have had the connection for years. This is, I don't want to call it a non-story, but this is less of an issue because we know they're going to be fine. You need to build with Derek Carr right now, especially a guy like Derek Carr who has struggled in years past and had some injuries as well. You want him to get comfortable with these weapons so he can get back on track. If he's not on track with Antonio Brown here, and we're talking about maybe missing a lot of the preseason, it could be a slow start for the Raiders. And you look at the rest of this roster, this is it, right? You have Antonio Brown and you have Derek Carr, and maybe these guys make something special happen and Oakland can start to forge a little bit of the season. Maybe we see some of those rookies step up on defense, but for the most part, if Oakland's going to have any success, it's the Carr to Brown connection that we're going to be relying on here. This kind of sets that back a little bit.
So Steven says he's a veteran. They miss training camp time for any stupid reason they can. You will see by week 1 why Oakland have pretty much a bag of Skittles to this guy. He's an idiot, but the guy is maybe the hardest working player in the league. He will be fine. The Steelers let him go because he demanded the trade, not because of his issues with the teammates. That is partially true. He was no longer getting along with his teammates, which pushed him to demand a trade. Man, let's be completely honest here. He was getting called out in media by his quarterback, by other players. Same thing with Le'Veon Bell. Maybe Le'Veon Bell was a little bit more hyped in the media than Antonio Brown was, but this is happening on both sides of these camps.
Preston is changing gears real quick. I want to hit this, and I want to keep going. George, it's good to see you, man. Preston says, how good is Paris Campbell going to be? If we're talking from a football perspective, adding another speedy receiver to play across from T.Y. Hilton, fantastic move by the Colts, especially if this guy's a third or a fourth option. Look for him to have success as a rookie. If you're talking about fantasy, should you go and take a flyer on him early? I would say no. Scoop this guy up in the 14th round. Just bet on the Colts having a passing game and him getting 400, 500, 600 yards and a few touchdowns out of this. Don't bet on Paris Campbell being a stud right away, but this is a good move by Indianapolis from a football perspective and what he can grow into. A couple more comments here.
I just want to get at Steven that I'm agreeing with you, man. I don't think the Raiders made a bad decision. You're 100% right. This guy is going to be a legitimate threat week 1 for your team with Derek Carr. Even though he's not going to have the chemistry, I think it's going to take him a little bit before he's really out there. But I mean,
hopefully he's not walking on a bed of coals out there when he gets on week 1.
But you have to understand, this guy had made his career in a Steelers uniform. They normally just don't demand a trade for nothing.
Normally the Steelers let him go because they don't want to give him a big contract.
There's something going on. The media just didn't catch on and push it like the Le'Veon Bell thing.
All right, we promised to talk Cowboys.
Yeah.
Didn't we? So we got to talk Cowboys here. Well, yeah, it's time to move on. We're going to talk about the Cowboys and what they did last year, what they're going to do this year in our opinion. Are they going to get better? Are they going to get worse? We'll go into that here. I want to talk about this team first before we go into things because this was a tale of two halves. We saw for the first 8 games before they made that Amari Cooper trade, this team struggled on offensive side of the ball, mightily, right? And then they go and trade for Amari Cooper. A week or two goes by, and all of a sudden, they look like one of the better offenses in football, or at the very least, close to that 10 number that can actually make you a playoff contender. The question to me, Drew, we already know they're good at running the ball. They were 10th last year, but even with Amari Cooper, they still ranked 23rd in the pass. Do we see that number creep up with Amari Cooper getting a full season here for Dallas?
I don't think it really has. Well, how can I explain? I don't want to sit there and say it doesn't have anything to do with Amari Cooper. Obviously, Amari Cooper is going to help improve those numbers. But it really depends on the chemistry with Randall Cobb and how much Jason Witten has left in the tank. Because we all know you can't just have one target and be successful. You just can't do it. And as far as Dak has shown us so far, he doesn't have like the arm like Jameis Winston does, who throws the ball all over the place. And I'm not saying it's perfect. What I'm getting at is that's what he has in his. Jameis Winston isn't going to break the pocket, run the ball like Dak does. Dak is going to make the smart throw. Jameis Winston does not. But if you're going to sit there and compare arm strength, I think Jameis Winston has him beat a little bit.
Right.
So what I'm getting at is, even though Jameis Winston has one target, they're not creating wins. You know, I get that Deshaun Jackson was there. I get they have other people there. But realistically, Mike Evans is the number one target. if you sit there and put in the Cowboys and say Amari Cooper is our number one target and you have nothing left, you're not going to be where Jameis Winston is and be Jameis Winston was last year and had the number one throwing offense.
Right, and this team has lost a lot of weapons. I mean, we already talked about Rod Smith and Alfred Morris leaving the backfield for this Cowboys team. Now they've lost Cole Beasley as well from the slot. They've also lost Terrence Williams, who in my opinion never did anything, but he's been their number 2 receiver for years now. This team is getting incredibly thin at wide receiver, in my opinion. They need to have some of these like undrafted free agents they're probably looking at right now step up in a big way for this year, because like you said, it can't just be Amari Cooper. And I like Randall Cobb. I've forever been the Randall Cobb apologizer, the guy who said, dude, he'll come back, he'll be fine. And even last year he caught that pass against the Bears. I was like, we're back, baby. Now I'm out. That's it. I've been burned too many times. I'm the jaded lover. I've been burned too many times. I'm out on Randall Cobb being a significant factor on this team for 16 weeks. You may get 4 good weeks out of him. You're not going to get 15. When you look at this roster, somebody else is going to need to step up if this passing game is going to improve, and you're legitimately going to have a shot to go deep into the playoffs, because the Eagles are going to be hawking the ball all over the lot. They're in division. It's going to be tough to beat them. You also have teams like the Saints and the Rams over there that know how to throw, know how to run, know how to play defense on top of it. You got to match up with those guys. And to me, having one guy who can catch the ball, except for the Saints, we don't see a lot of teams succeed like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And even the Saints have guys like Ted Ginn that shows up once in a while, and Traquan Smith who shows up once in a while. They have other guys. I don't know who that is on Dallas yet. I just don't.
And you got to also think if Zeke is not there, he is a huge weapon out of that backfield, catching the ball as well as plus running routes when they go a 5-wide spread. Zeke is usually out there on the field. This is going to be a significant loss, and it's going to take a lot more than Amari Cooper. So when you sit there and ask me, can the Dallas's offense beat the 23rd passing offense ranked that they beat last year, or that they had last year? Maybe.
Right. I think they can get above it. I think they'll be above 23. But I think it's probably we're talking about 17 or 18. With a guy like Dak Prescott throwing the ball, we're talking about 17 or 18. And Amari Cooper's going to have a few more of those games where you're like, man, this guy dropped 220 yards and 2 touchdowns, absolutely blew games up. But I think you're also going to see games where he's going to catch 60 or 70 yards because everybody's focused on him. He's getting constantly doubled, and the other team has a good enough secondary where they can limit that kind of factor against them. I think you're going to have somebody else step up.
Cody says Dak isn't taking, I'm assuming he said $100 million life insurance policy out on his arm. He wants to just throw enough to win. And then Steven says...
Well, Lloyd's of London will insure anything, right?
And then Steven says...
They insure J-Lo's butt, they'll insure anything.
He said, I said when Oakland traded Coop is a beast. He just needs to be consistent. He had shown signs of pure greatness, though. So he has high praise about Amari Cooper. But my question...
I do, too. And I've been the Amari guy. Remember, I was higher on Amari than you are.
And I like him.
I think you just hate Raiders. I'm just kidding.
No, that's not it at all.
No, I know.
I like Amari Cooper, and I think that he should have been a lot better in an Oakland uniform, but I just don't think that organization believed in him. I honestly don't.
I think we also kind of sleep on Amari Cooper a little bit more because he had that year where he dropped everything. I think it was his 3rd or his 4th year coming off the Pro Bowl years, where he had like a 40% catch rate or something like that, or like 52 or something.
It wasn't good.
Where like everything was in and out of his hands. And Steven, I'm sure as a Raiders fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think that hurt his reputation a little bit in the NFL. I still think he's got that. I think he's the guy who can absolutely make something happen. He's that guy that can show up and dominate a team if they're not an elite secondary. The problem is you're going to play teams like the Ravens that have great secondary players. You're going to play teams like, I had to talk about them, this is my one time at least for show, the Titans, who have good secondary players that say, this is the only guy out there, we're going to find a way to take him off the board for you. And you're going to have to, put somebody else on the field that's going to actually beat us, or you're not going to win this game. And I don't know that Dallas has that guy. We still like him, though.
Zeke.
Catching the ball?
Yeah.
So you need a linebacker, a safety in the corner, and you can shut down the Cowboys.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, it's going to be tough. That's my point. They're thin on weapons. Is it Jason Witten this year?
Let's be completely honest. They've been trying to stop Zeke every time you face the Cowboys. The first thing you talk about a defense stopping the Cowboys, you stop 21.
Right.
Well, guess what? They still had 10, 11 wins. I don't remember how many wins they had last year. They still found themselves in the playoffs. You can sit there and say that all you want, but doing it is another completely different subject. And that's where, when you ask me, is there a guy you can lean on? It's Zeke Elliott. You lean on him to be your consistent workhorse. Again, why we spent so much time on it earlier, you pay the man because he's the most important piece to your team.
Yes.
Offensively.
Yes, absolutely. And Ian says he'd rather have Amari Cooper than Antonio Brown. I would too, but that's because Antonio Brown's like 31 and Amari Cooper's like 25. I think from that standpoint, you've got a lot more football left in the tank for Amari Cooper. So even if you're losing a little bit of the production Antonio Brown could give you in the short term, long term it's going to make up for it. There's no doubt in my mind Cooper is the more valuable piece at this point. Also, Cody said Oakland just wanted him to run go routes. I agree. They kind of got a little simple. I think him and Derek Carr had something going there. I mean, there was reports about Derek Carr losing respect because he was crying when they traded Amari Cooper away. I would cry too. If I have to now throw to a bunch of nobodies because you traded my last weapon away and Michael Crabtree, who can't move anymore, I would absolutely be upset about it. I do not blame Derek Carr for that. I think Cooper's a great player. I think he's one of those guys that even if he's not on and making anybody's list for top 5 receivers or top 10 receivers sometimes, he's one of those guys that is still in the conversation, is still close to those guys, and is going to be able to help this team out. The problem is most teams don't have just one wide receiver. And I'm going to complain about that 3 more times before the show's over.
We do got to get moving on to the rest of the Cowboys here. And Jose said, just a thought, though, man, I don't know if we got your first message. If you could resend it, we would love to comment with you, man. Let's talk about the Cowboys' defense. They're ranked 7th overall. The pass was 13th. The run defense was 7th. The scoring was 6th. I mean, this defense was stout across the board.
Absolutely. I mean, across the board. And these guys are eventually going to need to get paid, and things are going to get interesting in the future because that money's going to a lot of these offensive players, especially if they pay the big 3. Right now, though, you've got it made, right? You've got those young, cheap contracts for the most part. You've got a lot of good linebackers coming in. You've got guys who are going to be able to make an impact. They're still a little weak in the secondary, in my opinion. I would have loved to see him sign Earl Thomas like all that talk was beforehand. But when you look at what this team can do and you look at all the guys they have, they are going to be another top 5, top 10 defense this year. Watch out for them. I think they're one of those squads that they may finish 6th, but they're only going to be a couple steps behind teams like the Bears at the very top end of the NFL.
Steven says, Oakland got a first-rounder for Coop. They pretty much gave Pittsburgh nothing, and Crabtree was gone before Coop.
Was Crabtree gone before him? He might have been. He might have been a Raven before then. But still, I would be upset that you let Crabtree go and you're like, we're not replacing him. You've got Amari Cooper, you'll be fine. And then Jared Cook is your best option. Believe me, I'm a Titans fan. I know all about Jared Cook. He's one of those guys that'll catch like 4 passes. You'll be like, man, this guy's so talented. Then he disappears. Had a good year in Oakland. I'm over-exaggerating. But historically not a great player. I think when you talk about Derek Carr and what they've kind of gave up and kind of left him hanging out there to drive for, I would be upset too. And you might be right. I don't remember exactly which one of those guys left, but they left pretty close to the same, right around the same time. Crabtree might have gone in the offseason before they traded Cooper like 6 games later.
Sean, thank you so much for the love, man. Hope to meet you too sometime. Hopefully we can do a live show and we're somewhere near that you can come and check us out. Cody said the Cowboys get 5 wins in the division almost every year.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. They usually do pretty well against the division.
They play their division well.
But
that
it's going to be tough.
But that doesn't mean they'll make themselves in the playoffs. I mean, realistically, until they drafted Zeke, I know they had Romo. But they struggle for a long, long time.
They would win 5 games in division, and they'd wind up with 8 or 9 wins for a season.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You got to beat everyone outside of your division as well. So I'm with you on that standpoint, Cody. But again, those count for tiebreakers. Beyond that, you got to win some games outside the division. Let's talk about the schedule, though, Drew. We got to get into it eventually. Let's start with it. They start with a couple of those division games that Cody, like you said, they tend to dominate. We see them starting off pretty strong, both at home against the Giants and then on the road against the Redskins. We see this as back-to-back wins for the Cowboys. Even though I want to give the Redskins a win here, it'll be the healthiest version of this team you're probably going to see. And on top of it, you're betting on them having healthy running backs to go with it. It's just tough to bet on a team with no quarterback or that's trying to figure it out. That is 3 quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
Tough to say they're going to beat a playoff hopeful like the Cowboys are right now.
Yeah, we do also remind you guys when we do this schedule and we're looking at the wins and losses of it as we go through it, we are assuming Zeke Elliott is playing at this time. We assume he's going to play all year long. We cannot expect a holdout. We cannot expect suspensions. So we're going to assume Zeke is playing. So if you guys want to sit there and tell us what you feel about these games, just remember we're thinking number 21 is playing. So when you look at week 1, you look at week 2, and you look at week 3, these should be a great start for the Cowboys starting their 2019 season. And as we have them, they're 3-0 going in to week 4 against another Super Bowl hopeful team in New Orleans against the Saints. Could possibly be the NFC Championship game this year.
But, I know every Eagles fan just cringe hearing you say that.
It could happen.
It could happen. It absolutely could happen. These are both playoff hopefuls, but who do you bet on? You could even argue their team's set up the same way. They got the stud running back, Alvin Kamara versus Zeke Elliott. They have a good offensive line. They've got a quarterback that they believe in, even though we think, obviously, Drew Brees is leaps and bounds ahead of Dak Prescott. And then they have the number 1 huge wide receiver. They've got a defense they're building, and they believe in playing defense as well. I think when you look at these teams on paper, the only difference here is the quarterback. And I think even though it's in New Orleans, this is still, regardless home or away, a win for the Saints here. I think when you talk about Drew Brees, you talk about Dak Prescott, and I had to bet on one guy throwing the game away, I'm not picking the most accurate quarterback in the NFL to do it. I'm going to pick Dak Prescott, Mr. Number 20. Right?
Yeah. Ian asks us, what's the win-loss if Zeke stays out? Man,
6-10. And that sounds harsh, but you take Amari Cooper out of the game, and it's not hard to take one receiver out of the game.
Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's a 6-10 game differential.
Yeah, I'm going to say 6-10, and we think they're going to be good.
5 to 6 game. What did I say?
Right, you said 6-10, but I got
you. But
5 to 6 games.
I meant 5 to 6 games. I'm sorry, 5 to 6 game loss and win differential from what they would be with Zeke on the field. Sorry,
and that's only because they play the Giants twice. But no spoilers. We're not talking about that just yet. We'll move on. We'll talk about weeks 5 and 6, and let's hit everything before the bye. 5, 6, 7. They have a little bit more of a challenge. Going up against the Packers at home, Jets on the road, and then Eagles shortly after that at home. This is going to be a tough stretch, but we see it as 3 more wins. I think the Packers are still, especially with Mike Daniels on his way out of Green Bay, are going to struggle against power-running teams like Dallas is built to be. Ahead of everything else, Dallas wants to run the ball. They've got those big offensive linemen that, even though they've had injuries, have still been very good in the past. I'm not betting on the Packers being strong enough up the middle to stop a team with Zeke. Again, Ian, this is one of those swing games. Zeke's not playing. We're talking about this maybe being a loss.
Yeah. But we assume if Zeke is playing, he can keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline and have a strong run game. That defense is going to struggle. Maybe their secondary got a little better. Their pass rush got a little bit better. But to stop Zeke, you need a strong defensive line. And with Mike Daniels gone, we see it as a win for the Cowboys. And then away in New York, even though they're doing, in my opinion, the right moves defensively, we think this might be a game where there needs to be a lot of high scoring. And what do the Jets not have that the Cowboys do? That's a legitimate wide receiver and receiving threats for their
You don't like Quincy Enunwa? Come on.
I do like
Robbie
him.
Anderson?
I don't like him.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they're not Amari Cooper. And with the Zeke added into that, even with the Le'Veon Bell on the other side, when it comes to a shootout, I think the Cowboys can win this game.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they need to. You're a playoff team. You're going to have to go and bully some of these teams that are stuck in the mid-range to maybe lower mid-range in the NFL. You're going to have to beat teams with good running backs. The good thing is you match up well against the run. With the 5th best run defense last year, we're going to see those young linebackers like Van Der Esch flying around the football. Maybe it's the tackle that makes a difference here, but you're going to have to win these ugly games just as much as you're going to have to win some of the games where people want to throw a little bit more on you, like the Packers the week before. After that, we have the Eagles at home. Again, this is one of those tough matchups that you're just going to have to try to muddle your way through and walk away with a win here. If you can get this win done, like we're kind of betting on them doing, you're going into the bye week with a 7-1 record, 6-1 record at this point. We see the Cowboys having a great start here. I also think them coming off the Jets is a challenge, but it's still doable with an Eagles team that has just as tough a schedule as they do.
Neil, I am not throwing up. I am grabbing more beer, man. I don't throw up.
Yeah, that's after the show. He pukes after the show.
I don't throw up. I just don't.
All right. Cody also says the Cowboys somehow lose a step on the road. He said he'd take the Saints.
And there's no such thing as too much beer. I don't know where you're from, Neil, but whoa. Okay? Pump the brakes on that negativity talk around here.
Also, didn't mean to be 3 hours late on that.
This is sports around the bar.
You done?
No. Neil needs to apologize to me.
Somehow the show commented something. That's strange. Did you do that? All right, we got hacked again. Awesome. Ian, you didn't miss anything, just us being stupid. Anyway, going here. Cody says the Eagles home or away. This one's at home. They play them on the road after that. They play them week 16 on the road. At home, I'm going to take Dallas. I think this is going to be one of those games that is going to be one of the... It's always a premier matchup when you see Philly play the Cowboys, right? We always love watching those games. Now you've got Carson Wentz, and you've got Dak Prescott, who's looking for his big contract. These guys are going to be out there trying to prove that this is either why you gave me the money or why you need to. I think this is going to be... I think it's going to be a split. Not to spoil anything, it's going to be a split coming up here.
So, I just got to ask. Sports Run, the bar got hacked. Did they find out our password?
Did they see all those pictures on there? If you could, delete that'd be
Jake and Drew are the hottest guys on
Nobody
Earth.
needs to see what's in those folders.
I mean, that's not our password.
Just delete that folder named homework on there. You don't need to see that. Anyway, we'll move forward here, Drew. They have a week 8 bye. After that, no one needs to see those pictures of me. Those are private. Those are for Tinder only.
I don't want to see those photos of you.
We'll move on. We're going to talk about week 9 and the Giants on the road. After that, they get the Vikings and Lions. A 3-week stretch where, yeah, they've got a tough team in there, but it seems like it's manageable, right? Giants, Lions, even though they're on the road, do they walk away with 2 wins there and then lose to the Vikings? Well, they get 2 wins, but we see them actually beating the Vikings and losing to the Lions in that 3rd week here. Interesting times.
It is. And to be honest, the reason we see the loss to the Lions is we believe the Lions defense, if Matt Patricia can get this defense in the right position, they have the playmakers to beat a team like the Cowboys. They have a shutdown defensive line now when they add an addition like Mike Daniels. They have a shutdown corner in Darius Slay. They have positions in the right spot to help for this team to win. And we want to believe at this point in time in Detroit that this Detroit Lions defense actually might be formidable and stop a team that relies heavily on the run game.
They still got the gunslinger and Matt Stafford. They even have a running back they believe in Kerryon Johnson, who hopefully will get a little bit of an inroad here against Dallas, but I don't necessarily want to bet on it. I think Kerryon Johnson's going to have some tough running here, but maybe he gets you that touchdown you need, because Detroit, for the first time, is trying to build its running game for the past 10 years. They have not tried to have a running back for years and years and years. Now, all of a sudden, with Matt Patricia coming in, it's almost like that emphasis is back on the running game. I think Dallas is going to struggle here. Like you said, they have a good defense. They have a good quarterback that, again, just like with the Saints game, Stafford versus Dak, give me Stafford all day long. I think roster-wise, I'm still going Dallas, but not by a huge stretch that I would say that Detroit's just out of this game. I think it's going to come down to quarterback play, and we're going to see Stafford outplay him.
Bees, I'm glad you could join us, man. He says Dallas is in trouble with no Zeke, and he agrees with Neil. They need Zeke. Just let you know, Bees, because I know you joined in, we are doing the schedule based on the fact that Zeke Elliott is playing all of these games. We're going to take suspension.
We're rolling the dice.
And not, hold out. We're going to throw all that to the wind.
After all, Tyreek Hill got off. Why can't Zeke catch a break?
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, moving forward here. Also, Ian says a loss to the Mighty Lions. I'm glad that we could make your day a little bit and just give that props to the Lions. We know you're all in on them, man. We don't see it. We're not seeing a great season, but I think this is a game they could upset the Cowboys in.
All right. Sports Run says, hey, guys, we are doing our best to screw your viewership over. Sincerely yours, Facebook.
Thank you, Facebook. Moving forward here.
Who are you? This is great. Thank you for the comments, the likes, and the shares, Facebook.
Absolutely.
You're the best.
Absolutely.
And remember, Jake and Drew are the hottest guys on earth is our password, but now we're going to add numbers, and you'll never figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not 1.
It's 7. Sorry. All right, we'll move forward here. We've got a couple more games here. Things, again, even though I want to say they stay tough, there's that little break game in there that they need to stay focused for. It's the trip-up game. They go on the road and face the Patriots. Terrible game. That's not the trip up. But then you get the Bills at home. Drew, things get interesting after that, and they go play the Bears on the road. That should be a tough, physical 3-week game. Can they steal a win against the Patriots before they have that happen? No.
I'm sorry, dude. No. It's got me thrown for a loss right now.
No.
It just cracks me up. Oh, man.
Patriots aren't going anywhere.
No, the Patriots aren't going nowhere. It's in Foxborough. Maybe if this was in Dallas, you might see a W for the Cowboys. But unfortunately, when it gets cold out there, Cowboys love playing inside. It's the reason why they built the dome.
Yep. And they play in Texas on top of that. You're talking about going to one of the hardest stadiums to go visit. On top of that, it's in front of those screaming fans. You've got a quarterback like Dak Prescott, and like I said before, in some of these losses, Dak Prescott versus a top-tier quarterback, things get a little dicey. I mean, Tom Brady has probably the best pedigree you want to see going up against Dak Prescott. I just can't bet on him outlasting or outshooting someone like Tom Brady. I just can't do it. Not at this point. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we have an injury. Maybe the Patriots, for the first time in forever, haven't figured it out by week 12. But you just got to bet on them. It's week 12. It's not week 3. Right. If it was week 3, I'd say maybe. But by now, the Patriots are in full stride. They're going for home field advantage because they know the Chiefs and the Chargers are going to be on their ass, on their heels, whatever. Sorry, Dad.
Sorry, Facebook.
I think the Patriots are going to be too much for them. The Bills, also, I think it's going to be an interesting game. A tough physical defense. I think this is your trip-up game for them. I think they lose this one.
I'm still taking for a loss. I'm sorry. We're going to move on. Week 13.
Drew's on full tilt.
Dude, it's got me thrown off. In Dallas, they play the Bills. We think this might be a trip-up game, even though they've lost 2 straight, the Lions and the Patriots. We look at Week 13 that it looks like it's going to be a 3rd loss in a row. Does this team falter because it's past? It was looking forward to the Patriots. It couldn't beat one of the best in the AFC, and so they sit there and skip again because they're looking forward to another a rival in the NFC.
If they lose
to the Bears,
if they lose to the Bills, this is the revenge game, Drew. This is like where they're like, okay, we shouldn't have done that. We got to play hard now again, guys. I think when you look at the Bears, these are 2 teams 100% set up the same way, and Bears fans are gonna be mad at me, but you've got the great defense. You've got a very physical, very pass rush able defense on top of it. You have the running game that seems like it's solid. You have an offensive line. You have one great wide receiver in both Allen Robinson and Amari Cooper, who everyone kind of disrespect and don't put at the top of the NFL. These teams are the same guys. The quarterbacks, guys that we think are somewhere around that 20 number that have something to prove still before they get paid. Even though we like Mitch Trubisky better than Dak Prescott, he's still not leaps and bounds ahead of him. I think this is one of those games these teams are 100% built the exact same way. Would I rather have Khalil Mack? Sure, but I like DeMarcus Lawrence. Would I rather have Vander Esch over Roquan Smith? Sure, but what kind of gap are we talking about? Paper thin here. These teams are almost exactly identical on the board. So what are we betting on? We're betting on motivation. I think coming off of a Bills loss, the Cowboys are going to be more motivated because they're going to see the schedule slipping away, and they're going to see that Eagles team chasing them harder maybe than anyone's chasing the Bears in the NFC North.
Man. I'm sorry. Neil says, Jake and Drew, do you guys think Jerry Jones needs to take a step back and stop taking control over the Cowboys? He feels like he does more harm than good. Man, we talked immensely about that prior to going into the Cowboys and Antonio Brown, and I think we both agree that he needs to take a step back, but I just want to remind you guys that his sons are definitely part of these decision-making. It is not all him. He's just the final say in it.
You're a business tycoon. You're not an NFL guy. Go throw some money at an NFL thinker, kind of like the Browns did when they brought in the Chiefs' Dorsey. Go get an NFL guy, and they tried it with 3 or 4 other guys. It didn't work. But bring in an NFL guy to kind of be the brain trust of your organization. Pay him the money because that's what you've done. You've made all this money in your life. Go pay somebody who all they've ever done is football.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I know better than everybody else who this is what they dedicate themselves 24/7.
So, do we need to talk about Week 14 at Chicago anymore?
Let me go into it one more time, real quick here, because Bees was saying that he would take Trubisky over Prescott all day, and of course, we're in the same boat. We think Trubisky has the higher ceiling. We think he's one of those guys that can develop more than Dak Prescott can, or we believe in his kind of upward mobility in the sense of where he ranks in quarterback rankings. But right now, when you see Mitch Trubisky and you see the good games, you see the bad games, we see that out of Dak Prescott too.
Right.
We see the same kind of inconsistencies. Would we take Mitch Trubisky over him? In a heartbeat. But in a single game, with rosters that look like this could go either way. 100% it could go either way. I would take Amari Cooper over Allen Robinson, and I love Allen Robinson. I think he's a great receiver,
yeah.
But Amari Cooper's better. I would take, again, pretty much Chicago's running back, I'm saying Zeke over Chicago's running back is what I was trying to say before I got confused. Yeah, exactly.
Montgomery.
I think on paper, these teams match up really, really well. I'm going to give the edge to the Dallas Cowboys because last week they got embarrassed by the Bills. They're going to have that little bit of fire that it's going to take to overcome a team that's built very, very close to what they are right now.
Right, no doubt about it. We see it as a win for the Cowboys, even in Chicago. Week 15, they get the Rams at home. We are also seeing this as a win. And then Week 16, they find themselves in Philly, a division rival, and we see them losing that in a cold air in Philly late in the year.
We do. And just as importantly, we see them beating the Rams, which is one of those games that they come off the Bears. They have another great game against a defense that's probably not quite as ready. Ndamukong Suh is long gone. I know you were saying Michael Brockers is there, but he was there last year, and they still struggled on defense. This is a team that's going to struggle against the Cowboys, that play good defense and maybe have what it takes to slow them down. Short of Sean McVay having the answer and having that creative play that everyone's like, man, look at him just rip up the Cowboys defense. I think this is one of those teams that you don't want to see, that plays elite defense and runs the rock and keeps that offense on the sideline and keeps you out of rhythm. I think this is one of those teams that can beat the Rams. Going back to the Eagles, you're not beating them twice. This defensive front for Philadelphia, absolutely scary. I love the Jonathan Cyprien ad because now he's going to be able to help out with guys like Zeke Elliott. You're going to see Cyprien more in this game where you need him to come up and stop the run than you would in some other games where teams throw a little bit more. This is one of those teams that it's going to be a heavyweight fight. If you take one out of the two for Dallas, you call that a win.
Yeah, and Neil's absolutely right. He says a tough play in Philly in the cold. The Cowboys aren't a cold weather team. Again, exactly why they built the dome.
And going to Sean's comment here, he says that Jerry Jones needs to retire from football. Look, if you've made $1 billion, obviously it's your right to do whatever you want. I'm just saying, if you want to win and you're really that concerned about it, what I would do as an owner would be to pay the guy that has spent his entire life trying to be the best football mind he can be instead of me that does it. Maybe it's your full-time job now, but it wasn't forever.
Right. All right, Week 17 in Dallas. They face the Redskins. We're looking at this as, possibly winning the division or winning, one of the top 1 or 2 seeds.
Quick comment back to the Rams game real quick. Cody says, wow, beating the Rams. The defense is going to have trouble stopping 4 wideouts. They might, but when you're on the field all the time playing offense, running the rock up the middle pretty much at will. I know Aaron Donald's a scary guy, but he's almost known more for his pass rushing ability than his run stopping. He can run stop. Don't get me wrong here, but let's not pretend like the Cowboys don't have some good interior offensive linemen as well.
Marcus Lawrence.
This is going to be a battle, and when you could focus entirely on Aaron Donald and maybe Michael Brockers is the difference in this game. I don't think so.
And let's not forget that
they're going to
Cowboys
spend some time on the
offensive line
field.
is still good.
Absolutely. If they get healthy, we're going to see them. I don't want to say dominate, but they're going to have their way with a Rams team that still finished in the 20s in run defense.
Man, okay, listen. When we sit there and we talk about these schedules and we talk about wins, my thing about this Rams team is, and I'm more about it than Jake is, I actually think that you're going to see an improvement on that defensive side. But you're also looking at snap count against Gurley. You're talking about wide receiver core that has yet to stay fully healthy for a full season. After losing Cooper Kupp, you saw a dramatic loss in Goff's numbers. Now, maybe they're all healthy. Maybe Gurley's snap count isn't existing right now. But this stuff makes a huge difference when you're talking about facing a team that you're more than likely going to face in the playoffs. And we also talk about how hard it is to beat a team twice in outside your division, let alone in your division.
Right.
So if the Rams sit there and win this game, do they go on the playoffs and face the Cowboys and lose in the playoffs? I don't think so. I think if the Rams face the Cowboys in the playoffs, the Rams beat them and they lose the regular season to Cowboys. Usually,
potentially, sure, but I've also seen Sean McVay come up flat in those kind of clutch situations.
Right,
we saw him get by, but it took a lucky penalty against the Saints. It took some luck to get them there, and then you saw what they looked like against a Patriots defense who was not very good all year long. They put up 3 points,
and they struggled.
I think sometimes we're talking about a 32-year-old. Most of these guys are 50, 60, 70 years old as coaches. We're not talking about a 32, 33-year-old in Sean McVay. The moment kind of overwhelmed him the first year. The question is, to me almost is, are the Rams going to be able to grow from that? So regular season, maybe the Rams take it because the pressure's off. I'm going to bet on the Cowboys again because I think this is one of those teams, again, maybe my decision changes when we actually get there in the regular season. But right now, on paper, they play good defense. They have the ability to rush the passer. We've seen the Rams lose guys like Roger Saffold in the interior. That could be a struggle. We've seen the Rams want to put a snap count on Gurley. All the Rams have is negative news. And we look at the Cowboys, they're like, okay, so they've got to sign some guys. But they still are going to be a great defense, regardless, right? DeMarcus Lawrence is happy now. He's He's back. He's going to play. They still have Van Der Esch. They still have all these other great defensive players,
Jalen Smith,
especially up front. When I look at the Rams, almost everything, minus the Eric Weddle thing, which you kind of won me over here in recent weeks, is in the negative factor. You lost Nakamada Suh, who, even if he's not making the most impact, is still taking more pressure and putting it on Aaron Donald, because now there's almost nothing else to worry about in this defensive line. You're losing LaMarcus Joyner, which I think is a big deal. You've seen McVay take a step back. We've seen injury. We've seen everything else. I think the Rams are going to struggle in this game. I do. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be an entertaining game. Again, these are two powerhouses going at it. I'm going to bet on the Cowboys. Maybe I take the dog in this one.
Sean, congratulations on getting married on your birthday on May 24th, man. That's great news. Neil says, can we stop and appreciate the fact that Tom Brady just signed a 2-year extension and could be the oldest quarterback to ever win in the NFL, win a game in the NFL eventually? I hope not, Neil.
Well, let me say this: we're gonna miss him when we're gone.
That's
and I've
because
said that
of your
forever.
comment.
We do, yeah.
Think about it.
We do need to finish the schedule, but with Tom Brady, I don't want to get too far off track. I think we're gonna miss him when he's gone. I think he's one of those guys that we're gonna tell your grandkids, your kids, whatever. Man, all these new kids in the NFL, they didn't stand a chance. I was there when Tom Brady was doing it. Greatest quarterback to ever play it. It's almost like the Joe Montana syndrome, where everyone wants to tell you about Joe Montana and how they watched him. I think Tom Brady's just that next level of guy. We can debate that for 3.5 hours, because I also believe Tom Brady has been incredibly lucky with the way everything's fallen to him in his career.
Yeah.
But there's no argument. When you win that many Super Bowls, you're a stud. You're a good player, right?
Alex says the Rams might not make the playoffs. Let's see how the season plays out.
That's tough. Maybe the Seahawks beat them, but again, you want to talk about a bunch of negatives coming in for a team? The Seahawks are kind of in that same camp.
Dude, Alex, I'm huge on the Seahawks. I'm huge on Russell Wilson. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But, man, you're telling me that they're not going to win their division? I don't know if I can believe that, man. They got the best defensive player in the league in Aaron Donald. The other players are around them. They have good players on that defense. They got a good defensive coordinator. And then Goff, as much as year one didn't look that great, year two looks significantly better.
It was Jeff Fisher, okay?
Right.
Pump the brakes. It was Jeff Fisher. I'm not saying you, but I'm saying everyone who wants to give Goff shit about that year. He made Todd Gurley look like he's trash.
And he has legitimately 3 great receivers. Robert Woods rejuvenated his career as a Ram, and Cooper Kupp and
it doesn't matter.
And Brandon Cooks. Man, they all look significantly great in those uniforms. Cooper Kupp never played anywhere else.
Brandon Cooks, sure, but it might just be McVay's system. And I talked about this with Shanahan. It's almost like you have any talent, I'm going to find a way to get the best out of you. And I think that might be a big part of the Rams as well. The problem is McVay choked in the playoffs. I want to see more out of him going forward. I want to see more consistency in those big moments. I also want to challenge Sharif here real quick, because he says Deshaun Watson is better than Dak and Carson Wentz. Dak Prescott, I'll give you, hands down. But I do kind of want to push back a little bit here. Healthy Carson Wentz, I think, is even better than Deshaun Watson. I think it's close. I think these guys deserve to be in the same neighborhood, and I want to see more out of them. I want to see these teams develop, and we can kind of see these stories develop as well. Like maybe Deshaun Watson takes that huge step forward when he gets the offensive line fixed. Or maybe Carson Wentz plays a full healthy year and can win a Super Bowl or something like that. I think those two are two guys that need to be talked about in the same neighborhood, the same sentence. You need to be talking about them being on the same level. Dak Prescott, you got me. I'm 100% with you. Carson Wentz, I can't say Deshaun Watson is hands down better than him. I mean, he's been hurt. Deshaun Watson laid an egg against Indianapolis's whatever defense last year in the playoffs, and tore an ACL the year before that. Sure, he's had a good regular season, and he had 4 good games his rookie year. It's still prove-it time for Deshaun Watson for me.
Sharif said, don't forget Tyler Lockett, Drew. And Neil said, Drew's love for Lockett disgusts me. It's all right, guys. It's all right.
Also,
I understand.
Another point that I'm not the Tyler Lockett guy, but when you talk about the lowest drop rate out of NFL receivers, Tyler Lockett, 0%. You know who else tied him there? The only other guy?
Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins. Exactly. The big man himself. So impressive work out of Tyler Lockett last year. He stepped up in a big way.
If I remember correctly, I think they matched on touchdowns too.
I still think he's overrated. But I think when you're playing with Russell Wilson, it doesn't matter how good you are, because they find a way to make it work with you. All right. we'll move forward here. We got about 3,000 things here real quick. Alex says Zeke will be signed and play this year. Oh, God.
Cowboys
if you're a
fans are
Cowboys fan, you better hope so, because this is the difference between winning 6 games and winning 11. Spoiler alert, we have him winning 11.
Well, I think it's
We're getting close. We're getting close. We had him lose to the Eagles in Week 16 on the road.
17. They win against the Redskins.
The Redskins. But the Redskins are dead by now. We all know that.
Right.
We all know the Redskins by Week 17 will have like half their roster on IR. They'll be playing guys that nobody's ever heard of before. This might be like their 16th quarterback. Josh Johnson might make a return. Who knows? The only thing I will say for the Redskins is maybe they give them a fight because this defense, as bad as they took injuries last year, stayed to the point where they stayed competitive. I mean, even the Titans, the Week 16 where they were still playoff eligible, we saw the Redskins battle and put up a good game. This is a team with no quit in them. I'll give them credit. No, not many teams can take those kind of injuries and stay in the fight, and the Redskins have done that.
B says, what did I miss on AB's nasty feet? We compared it to the Christmas Story when the little kid licked the metal pole. That's the best way for us to do it.
Oh, God. Again, Google it. See if you can find those pictures. They're rough. They're rough. It's one of those things that you hate to see a guy take a non-football injury, especially when he's doing something like a cryogenic chamber scientists agree, there's no consensus. Nobody can tell you whether it actually helps or whether it does not. I think when you look at Antonio Brown missing this time, the Raiders are probably going to be sitting there saying, what did we just buy, man? What did we just trade for? And I know they're hoping he's back, but this is the time you need to be working with Derek Carr and getting that chemistry down so that you're ready for week 1. I just wonder how bad this is going to impact him coming into the season.
And I know I'm behind, but I want to kind of get my 2 cents on the Deshaun Watson thing. As much as Sharif's love for Deshaun Watson, as much as you give me crap about Tyler Lockett, your love of Deshaun Watson is as great as this guy could be. If he never gets an offensive line in front of him, it's a what-if story. You know, I mean, it's the same thing with, like, David Carr, another Texans quarterback. What if he had a good offensive line that kept that guy healthy and kept him upright? If Deshaun Watson has all the talent in the world, but his offensive line can't do anything for it, I don't care if he had a 68% completion rating. I don't care if he took his team to the playoffs. It doesn't make a difference because he never could be the top tier like he could be somewhere else. And it looks like he's playing well enough that he might never play anywhere else but the Houston Texans organization. So they got to put a lot more pieces around him besides Hopkins to make this guy see what he could potentially be. And the thing about Tyler Lockett is he is in the right spot. Will Tyler Lockett be that same quarterback playing under Dak Prescott or Carson Wentz for that matter? No. It's the fact he's playing for Russell Wilson. Same thing with Deshaun Watson. He will never be what he could be until they fix it or he leaves that organization.
Absolutely. Now, Alex is saying the playoffs will be locked in by then for the Cowboys. There's potential of that where they're not resting everybody, especially with as good as this NFC team or this NFC conference is. There could be teams that have long since won the bye weeks, and the Cowboys are just going into this saying it's house money. We'll rest now on 17. Let the Redskins win it. But at least for now, we're going to bet on them having to play to keep up with teams like the Eagles because this is a potentially wild card team because the Eagles are as good as they are. Also, Alex said that Carson Wentz is great when he's on the field. Watson needs a line maybe in a few years, but Dak has a lot going for him here. All I can say is, what if we shuffled the deck and Carson Wentz was the Cowboy or Deshaun Watson was a Cowboy? What would these guys look like? I think both of those guys, even though Wentz has had a good offensive line, great offensive line in Philadelphia here, I can't say they're as good as the Cowboys are. There's always that what-if thing. Maybe he would look worse with less receivers, but Dak Prescott has definitely been in the right situation, and we're still talking about him not being good enough.
Yeah, the Eagles are putting a lot of money on Jordan Howard being that next-tier running back in their organization. I mean, that's been a huge loss for the Eagles. They never had that Zeke Elliott in their background. Now they got Jordan Howard. They're really hoping that's going to be the guy that pushes forward. But when you talk about Deshaun Watson playing in this Cowboys organization, that's the guy they wish they would have drafted.
Absolutely. Now, Ian also said playoffs. Playoffs? I just want to win one game. They're going to be fine.
I love the accents.
I'm trying.
These voices you're doing is great.
Exactly. The Cowboys, before we go into our final thoughts here, Drew, are going to win 11 games in 2019. One more game than last year. Is that a little harsh, or are we being a little too friendly to a team that we both kind of agree has done not much besides subtract this year?
Yeah, I think they get kind of lucky in who they face in the AFC East, in the sense that they're facing like the Bills, and the Dolphins, and the Jets. Even though they lose, in our opinion, to the game in the Bills, I think the fact that they get that easy division, it does definitely help their ego. Definitely puts in the right position. I think they're going to start a lot hotter than what they finish.
Right.
And as you could see from the bye week, they went from just 1 loss to 4. So there's a significant drop. Maybe it's due to injuries. Maybe it's due to the offensive line. I mean, all these factors come into it when we talk about the schedule. It's just a lot. We can't get to everything we talk about outside the show just due to time. But this team does have a possibility of being a lot better than what they were last year.
Also, let me counter here real quick. Sharif says 11-5. Yes, 11-5. This defense is going to be great. You're the Ravens fan, right?
They get
defense and running game. That's all you need.
Amari Cooper gets
and that's what the Ravens don't have.
Amari
is that
Cooper gets
stud
a
receiver.
whole offseason with this offense. You're talking about bringing in Jason Witten. We're again reminding you that Zeke Elliott is playing all 16 games in this season in our schedule. And Sean, yes, we have a dog. My dog is
Drew's
very
ready.
annoying, but we're trying to power through it, guys.
Also, Alex says Dak has a lot more upside. I gotta disagree. I think when you look at the age on someone like Carson Wentz or even Deshaun Watson, both these guys are super young. We've seen super more out of these guys with less to work with than Dak has had in Dallas. I think when you look at things, maybe Carson Wentz has had a good situation. Deshaun Watson has so much more upside than Dak Prescott does. I think Dak Prescott, if he was playing on Houston, we'd be talking about them. We'd be talking about him like he's Tom Savage, and they need a new quarterback because he's getting hit all the time. He's making bad decisions. Everything else, he can't get anything done. I think Dak Prescott has been lucky to be at a team that he's at right now in Dallas. That's my final thoughts. We're gonna move into some special thanks here, guys. One more quick thing. We've had a lot of viewership in this episode. We appreciate that, especially as bad as Facebook has been boning us here lately.
It's Facebook that's hacking us, supposedly.
Yeah, I know. It's great. But let me just say, even if you did not comment on the show, we appreciate you sticking with us. I know you want to talk Cowboys. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Say something to us because we'll talk to you. We want to get your opinion on a lot of this. If you did comment, we appreciate that immensely, guys, because it's so much more fun when we get your opinions too. And I know once in a while I'll come out there, kind of like what Alex was saying, and I'll disagree with you. We're not trying to crap on anybody. We just want you to know that we appreciate everything that you guys do for us, and we appreciate all your thoughts. So feel free to throw it out there, because you could disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine.
Sharif, I'm starting to think that you think I'm slow. Okay?
Well, he's not wrong. Drew don't learn good.
No, running.
Well, he didn't do that either.
Dude, the short bus only picked
fat
me
and retarded.
The short bus only picked me up for 4 years.
I'm sorry, that was rude. All right, we'll keep going.
Dude, the short bus only picked me up for 4 years of my high school career, okay?
Austin, man, we appreciate you. Let's do some special
Did
thanks.
that go over your head?
I'm not touching that. We're
Did
moving
that go
on.
over your head?
We're not joking about that because Facebook already hates us. We're not touching that. Let's go into some special thanks.
It's only 4 years of my high school, okay?
All right.
Guys, thank you again so much for all the comments, likes, and shares. It means the absolute world to us. If Facebook is hacking us, we appreciate Facebook that you stick your time in to hacking our account and making comments. It's the greatest thing on the earth. I loved it, absolutely. But real quick, for everyone that joined us and threw a comment out there, if I missed you, I'm so sorry.
One more comment real quick. Ian says it was a great show. We appreciate you, man. We'll see you on Friday. As for merchandise, it'll be out before the NFL season starts. We are on the razor's edge. I'm so close to having this ready to go. The problem is I'm an idiot myself. So
No, let's just be completely honest. It's a lot easier said than done. There's a lot of dishonest people out there. There's a lot of
we've had a lot of people that have bailed on us. Yes.
And we also have to make it right for you guys. No one wants
We're not trying to sell you a steaming pile of turd.
Yeah, we want to give you quality T-shirts. We want to give you something that you can be proud to wear, and us proud to sell to you. So that's very important to us.
Yes.
That's why we have not jumped into it right away. Trust me, we have listened to all your comments, and it means the world to us that you want to purchase Sports Around the Bar stuff.
Absolutely.
Trust me, we're trying to make it right for you guys before we do anything about it. And I want to do one quick reminder also, guys, remember our St. Jude's donation things. Guys, trust me, it is the most important thing we could do with any of our free money. If it's a quarter, if it's $1, we appreciate everything you could put into it. If you don't want to be part of the league, that's fine. But if you do, and you do put a big donation out there, remember to tell us how much in messaging, how much you put in there. Now there has to be somewhat of proof. We have to see the jump in the number amount.
We'll see it.
But I mean, we just need to know what you guys are wanting to do. Just throwing it out there.
Even if you don't,
just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
If you're making $100 million a year, and I'm glad you're joining us and spending your time with us, and you threw $1,000 in there and you don't want to play, just be like, hey, I gave $1,000, but I don't want to play. Exactly. It just means the world to us that you guys are willing to donate whatever you have.
And if you can't, throw us a share, because there might be someone on your friends list who can. We're trying to go above and beyond even what we have as an audience. We're trying to go reach out and raise as much money as we can, because, I mean, this stuff sucks when you're an adult, but when we're talking about a child having it, can you imagine what those parents' mindsets are and everything? So everything you do, from the shares to any kind of donation you make, even if it's a single dollar, guys, it helps out immensely. We appreciate that. Now we want to go into some special thanks here, because you guys are awesome. Absolutely. We had a great show for the first time in a long time, because Facebook, like I said, has been pounding us.
They're listening.
I know. I don't want to say anything. Facebook has been destroying our viewership, but
Facebook has been great to us. Great. They're not watching. They're just listening.
Yes, Overlords. You've been fantastic. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, and we need to go into those special thanks.
Guys, again,
I've said it 5 times. Do it already.
I'll do whatever I want. Facebook is my god.
I've noticed.
Guys, if I missed your comment, I am so sorry. But Will, Ian, Cody, Ron, Preston, Bobby, Lewis, Sharif, Brian, Scott, Sean, Nestor, Ken, Austin, Bo, Stephen, George, Jose, Neil, Bees, Alex. I love the fact I had to say that many names. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Absolutely. And Ian, whenever it's comfortable, we've got 3 or 4 weeks here before the season starts. We're going to be going. I think the cutoff date is the 25th.
Yes.
But regardless, again, whenever it's comfortable for you guys, feel free to donate and let us know that you did it so we can get you in that fantasy group, because that's going to be the fun part, right? We're going to be talking about that all season long. We're going to be talking about how you're spanking us in fantasy because Drew doesn't know what he's doing and he sabotaged my team.
Your team. It's my team.
It's our team. All right, anyway, guys, special thanks again to each and every one of you.
I get to come up with a name.
Even if you didn't comment today, we appreciate you being here, guys. Don't be shy. That's all we can say. Do not be shy, because we love talking with you. So for Sports Around the Bar, are you ready for me to wrap it up? I know you got more to say.
No, you.
My team. I'm Jerry Jones. You're Jason. You're the Jason Garrett to my Jerry Jones.
I am not a yes man.
No kidding.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. We'll be back on Friday, whatever today is, to talk about, I believe it's New England. Don't quote me. I think it's the New England Patriots. So if you're a Patriots fan, I can't wait to dump all over your team. You've had it too good for too long. They're going to be good. We're going to talk about them then.
2-14.
We hope to see you.
And I am not dyslexic.
We hope to see you then. Guys, it's going to be absolutely a ball. We hope to see you on Friday. Again, same time, 7:45 Eastern, 6:45 Central. So for Sports Around the Bar, I am Jake. This is Drew. We will see you guys then.
See ya.